Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story in which one betting woman lost her money. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Loudmouth ruining afternoon lunch costs her money. My mom and I had to visit relatives that lived out of town, 3-hour drive each way. After seeing said relatives, we decided to have lunch before heading home. My mom enjoys eating out, and I took her to one of her favorite restaurants. We sat down, ordered our food and drinks, and that's when the loudmouth walked in. Now, to call her loudmouth is an understatement. I'll refer to her as Gobcrap. Gobcrap was shown to her table. It was her mom's birthday meal out with the family, including uncles, aunts, cousins, etc., and Gobcrap was in charge of the table booking, decorations, seating plan, and just generally ordering everyone around. She sat next to her mom in the middle of the table and her dad at the end. He happened to make eye contact with me and smiled with a gentle nod, and I returned the same gesture. They were a party of 12 plus. Generally, it's accepted they'd be louder, but then Gobcrap proceeded to place the drink order and bellowed at the waitstaff. I carried on talking to my mom with the backdrop of a foghorn, and our food arrived. Gobcrap announced that birthday presents for her mom will be opened after dessert, and she studied the menu. Bit of a respite for everyone's hearing. Her cousins engaged her in conversation, and somehow they were discussing old TV shows, in particular the A-Team. Given that Gobcrap has 2 volume settings, loud and effing loud, I was intrigued with their conversation. The A-Team was one of my favorite shows as a kid, along with Knight Rider, Airwolf, Street Hawk. Yes, I know I'm showing my age. Gobcrap claimed she knew everything about the A-Team and claimed that Hannibal was played by Gregory Peck. She was questioned by other family members, but no, Gobcrap was adamant and said, "I bet any of you 50 quid it's Gregory Peck." Her mom and 3 of her cousins shook hands on the bet, and Gobcrap proceeded to phone a friend for confirmation. The friend agreed with Gobcrap, maybe in fear of losing hearing. She was grinning like a Cheshire cat. She was due 200 pounds. She proceeded to rub it in everyone's face about winning the bet and how she was right. That's when I decided to pee on her parade. As we finished our meal, I paid and went to the bathroom, and on my way back, I politely interrupted their meal. Me. "Excuse me, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt your meal, but I couldn't help but overhearing your discussion about the A-Team," while gesturing towards Gobcrap. "Gregory Peck didn't play Hannibal." "Yes, he did," Gobsmack scowled. "No, he didn't. It was George Peppard that played Hannibal." "Oh, no, it was Gregory Peck." At this point, her dad stepped in as the voice of reason and nodded his head saying, "You're right, son." In an instant, her mom and 3 cousins all turned around and demanded their 50 pounds each. Her face was thunder. She was raging. Everyone else was laughing at her. I smiled at her and walked out of the restaurant. She held her gaze for as long as possible. And our second story. Don't leave your department during shift. This happened back when I was 18 and 19, so best part of 15 years ago. I was working for one of the big 4 supermarkets in the UK, doing a 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. shift 4 nights a week. I was on the beers, wines, and spirits BWS section. In October, I went to the warehouse to get some more stock to put out, and the phone rang at the BWS section of the warehouse, which was behind a locked door, because theft. I answered it, and it was the store manager, SM. The conversation went a bit like this. SM: "Ram, why aren't you on your department?" Me: "I'm getting more stock to put out." SM: "If we got fined 5,000 pounds for you not being there, would you pay it?" Me: "Wouldn't it just be cheaper to have someone else work alongside me than pay a fine?" SM: "I don't want you leaving the BWS section during your shifts unless you have someone to cover." Me: "So stay there all shift." SM: "Yes." Brilliant. Just brilliant. The first time in 18 months that SM stays late and has his shift overlap mine, he has a go at me for doing my job. Then I remembered that I was a lazy sod and I'd just do what he said. So for the rest of my shift, I just stayed in the BWS section, didn't get anybody to cover at all. At the start of my shift, everybody else was on checkouts, and the late crew were never willing to lend a hand. So it started in October, then November, maybe a few $100 lost in sales every night, and a backlog of stock that had to be sorted out the next morning. Then came the best part, December. As you might know, people like a tipple around Christmas and New Year's. Supermarkets also like to put offers on alcoholic drinks around that time too. I wasn't allowed out to get more stock, so certain vodkas, gins, whiskeys, wines, ales, champagnes, etc. all sold out. I knew there was plenty of this stuff in the back, but I wasn't going to disobey SM, especially when I'd been doing such a good job until now. So those few £100 a night turned into thousands a night. I estimated in the week leading up to Christmas, I cost the store at least £50,000 in 20 hours. That wasn't solely from lost alcohol sales, but the number of people who just dumped their trolleys, shopping carts, and left without buying anything. New Year passed with the same story, and Valentine's Day and the entirety of March. Then 2 weeks before Easter, SM stayed late to talk to me. Didn't bother when we were losing loads of sales, only in the few months before his contract renewal. SM: why haven't you been putting out stock for the last 6 months? Me: you told me not to, SM. Why haven't you had anyone else cover? I tried, but Knights weren't interested. So why didn't you just go back and get any stock? You told me not to. I didn't mean it literally. So why'd you say it? During that conversation, he didn't explicitly tell me to change what I was doing, so I didn't. Easter passed, as did his contract renewal date. At the start of June, the former deputy manager was now the store manager. The ex-deputy manager stayed late to talk to me on her second week in her new position and told me to go back to doing what I was supposed to be doing. I said, "Okay, Mom," and went straight into the warehouse. Oh, I forgot to mention that my mom was the deputy manager and hated SM because of how he treated the younger 16 to 21-year-old members of staff. She says she let the regional management know about it at the annual review. The self-important boss always ends up being his own downfall. And our next story. Idiot screwed himself trying to get more child support. My wife, we'll call her Jane, used to work full-time in a demanding field and was well compensated. Her son primarily lives with his father, who we'll call Beavis. Per the agreement, their lawyers worked out in the order from DSS, Jane pays X amount in child support each month, and since she's always carried the son on her work health insurance, she continued to do that. When she decided to stop working there, we obviously had other plans, and we were more than ready to continue the amount of child support already being paid. And we were going to find a health insurance policy for her son and pay for that. Again, we were and are financially sound and don't make significant decisions without a solid plan and some resources. Well, Beavis got wind that she was quitting and flipped out, assumed we were going to quit paying child support and try to screw him over. Mind you, Beavis is a perpetual broke butt, so this money meant far more to him than it did to us. So before we could tell him this and sign up for a policy, he reported us to DSS and insisted on a full review and blah, blah, blah. Short version. We're much calmer and less abrasive than Beavis, so a simple letter to the judge explained that we were providing the exact same financial info we had previously and that nothing on our side changed except we would now be paying directly for son's insurance rather than through Jane's work. I didn't get to directly hear the judge, but in nearly every situation like this, Beavis ends up making an enemy pretty quickly. He's drenched in entitlement, thinks he's smarter than everyone else, yet can't hold a decent job even with a master's degree, so he's perpetually looking for a handout. In the end, he got about $50 more per month, much less than he would need to pay for health insurance for son. And the order also indicated that it was now his responsibility as the primary custodian. Gotta love when begging for money actually takes money out of your pocket. And our last story. Refusing to pay me cost them $60K. I was working IT for a small law firm in DC that specialized in military law. As a firearms enthusiast, I got along with the combat MOS, military occupational specialty guys, and regularly scored just below the SF, Special Forces guys, for corporate range time. I decided to take my vacation time to do a 4-day survival course in another state, Montana, and a 3-day long-range marksman course with a week of couch time to recover. 1 week before I go, I'm told I need to cancel my classes due to the network crashing because they did not upgrade them when I told them to do so. I agreed, but they needed to reimburse me for the cost of the trip. I sent in the receipts amounting to about $3,000, to which they refused to pay. After some yelling, I was told, well, sue me, and you're fired. So I packed up my desk and said my goodbyes. I was leaving the whole network in shambles, and due to the ability to find an IT guy to work for what I was paid and to have a TS, top secret clearance, it took them close to a year to get a new network up and running. As per federal law, I had to report the firing to the OPM, Office of Personnel Management. OPM came in and took the network due to the only one with the proper clearance to work on it. Like Ron Pompeo, who always said, "But wait, there's more." I decided to call every person in the office as a potential witness to sue for wrongful termination and theft of wages. This meant he had to get outside counsel to represent himself in court. I knew the founding partner was bleeding cash, but he said sue me. He moved the venue to a classified court due to the nature of the data of the case. He lost the case, and I was awarded $60,000 in lost wages and damages. $10,000 went to the lawyer. Last I heard, the founding partner moved to Florida to work for a lawyer buddy he made when he was in the Navy. Edit. A bit of clarification on the nature of how clearances work. The quick and dirty explanation is a clearance and the need to know what that information is required to gain access to it. It was easier to be read into a case if I was already cleared or was expected to have reasonable access to the files. As I had admin-level access to our side of the network, I required a higher clearance. The network was running was in fact rated secret. Seems like it would have been easier to just give you the $3,000. Or the real pro move, just upgrade your network when your IT guy suggests it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.